Hey, how's it going, everybody? Charlie Wilson here, aka Sinister Charlie. Welcome back. Hi. It's late where I'm at, and I'm bored, so we're gonna watch some videos. We've got the Fat Electrician, America's Unhinged Nuclear Testing Operation Plumbob. If you're a plumber, you know what a Plumbob is. You don't really use it. Last time I used one was probably in A school. Yeah, you don't really see them used anymore. The technology's better. I don't know. I haven't plumbed in a while. Anyway, I don't know. Let's go. Let's go.
Okay, I finally got around to doing that video on that time America launched a manhole cover in outer space with a nuclear bomb, and it turns out that's actually the lesser of two interesting parts of this story, because America also dropped a nuclear bomb on top of 6 people to prove that nukes were safe.
Good.
Today we're talking about Operation
Nukes are totally safe.
Plumb Bob. The professional way to explain it would be to say that it is a bunch of nuclear testing that was carried out by the United States government in the late 1950s in the deserts of Nevada. However, in reality, it is more akin to the United States government dicking off with nuclear warheads in the desert like they're a bunch of rednecks on 4th of July with fireworks.
We'll shoot fireballs at.
But first, a word from our sponsor.
All right.
Oh, Nicholas.
Hey, what's up, wife?
Is this my Father's Day present?
Well, I do have a surprise for you.
What's that?
Our credit cards are maxed out. I'm gonna need you to fix it.
Oh.
I'd like to go shopping.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess so.
This video is brought to you by Henson's Shaving. Okay, here's the deal. Henson's is a family-owned machine shop that makes parts for the aerospace industry. There's literally parts on the Mars rover that these guys made, and one day they woke up and they're like, hey, we're just gonna make the most precise safety razor on the market. And this is it. This is all they sell. It comes in aluminum or titanium. If you want to pay extra, it comes with a little stand. And then they also sell the razor blades, so you have a one-stop shop. Not because their razor blades are proprietary, because this thing will take any shaving razor blade on the market. You don't have to buy their proprietary cartridge. You don't have to sign up for their monthly delivery thing. No, you buy this one time and then you can put any 5-cent razor in it and shave for the rest of your life. So the product itself is fantastic, but more importantly, the company is awesome, because every time a YouTuber does an ad like this, they get sent a little media packet full of talking points, what to say, what not to say, and so on. Now, I'm not supposed to disclose this, but the brief that I got for Henson's basically said there is no script, do whatever you want, we trust you. Also, in the first paragraph, they said this, quote, if for whatever reason you don't get a good shave with our product, please let us know. If we can't help you, then don't endorse us. We think we've made one of the very best razors in the world. If you disagree, we'd rather not ask you for a non-genuine endorsement. So the razor's great, and this is the type of company that you actually want to give your money to. I'm gonna have a link for them down below. Let's get back to the video. All right, Operation Plumb Bob takes place in 1957. There was a total of 29 nuclear explosions, and they were testing all kinds of different stuff. They had biomedical testing going on with pigs, seeing how radiation affected them and at what distance. Then they were covering the pigs with blankets, seeing what materials blocked the radiation, what materials didn't.
I hope they ate it after the nuclear testing. Eat what you kill, you know?
They also conducted experiments on 18,000 U.S. service members, basically having them dig a trench off in the distance and hide in it while they detonated a nuclear warhead to see how they held up. And then they had different buildings and structures built out of different materials, trying to see which building materials blocked radiation the best and which ones blocked them the worst. Now, when this started, all the bombs that were being detonated off the top of a tower or from a high-altitude weather balloon. They were just detonating nuclear warheads into the open atmosphere. What could possibly go wrong, right? And the important context here is that it's 1957. The world became aware of nuclear weapons 12 years prior at the end of World War II, and a couple years after that, the USSR had their own nuclear weapons. We are well off into the Cold War, and nuclear hysteria is at an all-time high. So by this point in time, the American general public doesn't just understand that nuclear weapons make a really big boom, they also, to some degree, also understand radiation and nuclear fallout. So everybody kind of understands what's going on at this point. I mean, they've even got cartoon turtles teaching kids what to do in case a nuclear bomb gets dropped near them. So naturally, when everybody finds out the government is strapping nukes to balloons and blowing them up in the desert, there's quite a bit of concern, you know, like, hey, maybe that's a bad idea. And then everybody finds out this is actually how the government's planning on protecting them from a nuclear strike from the Soviet Union, by taking one of our nukes and blowing up the Soviet nuke in the sky right above everybody's heads. Ladies and gentlemen, the Genie air-to-air missile. Okay, you gotta remember, this is the 1950s. There's no intercontinental ballistic missile that can reach from the Soviet Union into America yet. So this means that the only nuclear strike risk really comes from Soviet bombers flying into America and dropping their bombs. So we gotta be ready to shoot down these planes, right? Obviously. Problem, again, it's the 1950s. There's no sophisticated anti-air systems yet, okay? There's not really any air-to-air missiles that our fighter jets can shoot accurately. So the going theory was that we're gonna use this nuclear fucking missile and shoot it at an entire formation of Soviet planes and blow all of them up at once.
Genius!
Okay, and on a rudimentary level, this makes complete sense, right? If you can't be accurate, you increase the margin of error. If you're not good with shooting a pistol, maybe grab a shotgun, it's easier to hit your target. However, what they've went and done with the Genie missile might be a little bit of overkill, because what they've essentially said is, well, I'm not very accurate with air-to-air missiles for shooting down planes, so instead, I've opted to create a spawn point for the fucking sun. So naturally, now everybody's absolutely terrified, and the government's like, guys, calm down. It's gonna be completely fine. There's no, you know what? I'll just prove it to you. Give me 5 volunteers and a camera guy, but don't tell him what he's doing. On July 19th, 1957, the United States government detonated a Genie air-to-air nuclear missile with a 1.5 kiloton warhead directly above the heads of 5 U.S. service members that volunteered to be there, and a camera guy that was not informed of what he...
Remember the Navy's motto, never again volunteer yourself. Just remember that. If you're going into boot camp, just remember that.
was doing until a couple hours beforehand.
I'm out. What? You cannot pull out of this. I'm pulling out. We're way too deep to pull out. I'm pulling out. No, we are not. You're leaving it in. I've been pulling out for years, son.
Weed.
And in your head, you're probably picturing like 5 dudes in hazmat suits with a welding mask on. No, it's literally 5 bros in their military uniforms standing in the middle of the desert with no glasses, making direct eye contact with a nuclear explosion while one of them is holding a sign that says Ground Zero, Population 5, because that shit's funny.
It's kind of funny.
We felt a heat pulse, a very bright light. A fireball, it is red, the sky looks black about it. It is boiling above us there. It is rapidly losing its color. There is the...
That reminds me of, I was on a convoy security mission in Iraq, and I was a convoy security gunner, and we saw an army convoy in front of us get hit, and you saw this huge mushroom cloud. It was a really big ID. I don't know if it tore up one of the third country nationals in the army convoy. Yeah, you could feel it took like 3 seconds, but the heat finally hit your face. It's crazy. Anyway, sorry. It's just
ground wave. It is over, folks. It is tremendous. Directly above our heads. It went.
Okay, now let's just take a minute and appreciate the fact that you've probably just witnessed the most testicular fortitude ever captured on camera.
Hell yeah.
Secondly, let's also admire the fact that the sign that says Ground Zero, Population 5 is not only funny at face value, but it's hilarious that they only counted the 5 of them in the camera and not the cameraman himself, because even back in 1957, they knew that the cameraman never dies.
I'm actually like Frodo Baggins.
And out of respect for them being, to the best of my knowledge, the only 6 people that have ever volunteered to have a nuclear warhead dropped directly above their foreheads, I'm going to go ahead and read their names off. The cameraman's name is George Yoshitake, and the 5 service members are as follows.
Akira Yoshitake. Really? Huh. All right.
Colonel Sidney Bruce, Lieutenant Colonel Frank Ball, Major John Hughes, Major Norman Bodinger, and Don Luttrell. Apparently, the cameraman, Mr. Yoshitake, had filmed a bunch of other nuclear tests in the past, and he thought that this was going to be no different than all the other ones, you know, where he's miles and miles away just filming a mushroom cloud, and he didn't know that they were going to be dropping the bomb directly above him until like a couple hours beforehand, and he was already there. After arriving to the test site, he was briefed on what was going to go down, and according to him, he was pretty much completely unfazed. He did not care at all, and he was 100% game to partake in this experiment, which I think we can all agree is gangster as fuck.
This is what I pictured.
What did you picture?
I walk in there like a fucking gangster.
Why do we keep going back to this movie? It's an alright movie, I guess, but alright.
Sir.
And then he goes on to live a normal life until he passed away in 2013 at the age of 84.
Really?
And the other 5 service members that were also involved in this experiment all lived full, happy lives. As far as I could tell, the youngest any of them passed away was 71,
Really?
and the rest of them all lived into their 70s. And while it's great that they were all okay, the PR stunt itself wasn't really that effective because the general public wasn't swayed very much by it. They still wanted them to stop blowing up nuclear bombs all the time. So finally, the US government's like, fine, we'll stop blowing up so many bombs in the desert. And the American people are like, and above the desert in the atmosphere. Okay, fine.
Ocean.
And above the desert in the atmosphere. And in the ocean.
Nope. We're gonna do that.
Fine. We won't
Oh.
detonate nuclear bombs in the ocean either.
Under the
And that is the story of how nuclear testing finally came to an end. No, I'm just kidding. The government then decided to opt for the loophole, and they were gonna bore a 500-foot deep hole in the middle of the desert so that they could blow up a nuke underground, because nobody would be mad, because people were only mad about on the surface, in the atmosphere, and in the ocean. Surely, blowing one up
about a lake?
underground wouldn't be that big of a deal, right? I mean, what could go wrong?
Delete me.
Oh, more sponsors.
What are you doing? I already did the ad.
Dude, he's all sponsored up in this one, huh?
Delete me's gonna do every episode from now on.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, how much are they paying?
Don't worry about it.
Anyways, you guys know the deal by now. It's pretty straightforward. You give Delete Me money, they turn around and they
do
make
know
sure
the
the data
deal.
brokers on the internet aren't selling your
Bullshit
personal
direct.
information. And after they get it all taken down initially, they continue to monitor
That's
it
what we do.
and make sure nobody else starts selling it in the future. So if you're interested, I'll have a link and a discount code down below. Let's keep going. I mean, I'm not an overly smart guy or an explosions expert or anything, but I mean, off the top of my head, I've got some concerns. Primarily, I've seen the cinematic masterpiece Armageddon, where Bruce Willis convinced me that a bunch of dudes that work on an oil rig are easier to train to be astronauts than teaching astronauts how to drill a fucking hole. I mean, that was the entire premise of the movie. Drill a hole, stick a nuke down it, blow the planet you're on in half. I understand 500 feet probably isn't deep enough for that to be realistic, but still, nothing good can come of this. You're gonna like piss off King Kong or unleash that Balrog thing that killed Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. Something bad is gonna happen. Now, luckily, they're not planning on detonating a nuclear warhead in this hole. They're just planning on blowing one up. And what I mean by that is the premise of this experiment was basically, remember, we're worried about the USSR bringing bombers, planes, and dropping a nuclear bomb on America. And we're planning on shooting those USSR bombers down. Essentially, we're gonna blow up those planes that have a nuclear weapon on board. They wanna know what happens when you blow up a nuclear weapon with a conventional type bomb or missile, right? So they're gonna stick a nuclear warhead in the hole with another bomb, and they're gonna blow up the conventional bomb and see if that blows up the nuclear bomb as well, because we need to know that. And the going theory is that the nuke is not going to explode because nuclear bombs have to be set off in a very particular way, and if they don't get set off in that exact way, there's safety measures that are actually supposed to kill the nuke rather than set it off. But that's all theoretical, and there's only one real way to actually test it, right? You're gonna back up, grab a camera, yell World Star, and see what happens. So that's
Absolutely.
exactly what they do. July 26, 1957, they had the first underground nuclear test ever, known as Pascal A. Takes them all day to set it up. They gotta lower the device down this hole, they get everything ready. Then, on top of the hole, you know, in case the nuclear bomb does go off, they lower a 5-foot thick slab of concrete that weighs thousands and thousands of pounds. And then on top of the hole, they have some kind of lid. I'm not sure what material it was. They didn't say, but sitting on top of the lid, there was a bunch of sensing equipment, because remember, they're not expecting a big explosion. They're expecting a really small explosion, and they want to get as much data from it as possible. So they have like sensors and cameras aiming down the hole through this lid. And I will now let the head scientist in charge, Bob Brownlee, take the story from here. And I quote, "They
Bob.
finally got it down the hole. By my recollection, about 10 o'clock at night or so. There wasn't much time to go back to Mercury, go to bed, get up the next morning and shoot it. So somebody said, why don't we just shoot it now and then go in?
There you
And
go.
it was the world's finest Roman candle, because at night it was all visible. Blue fire shot hundreds of feet into the air. Everybody was down in the area, and then they all jumped up, jumped in their cars, and drove like crazy, not even counting who was there and who came out of the area. So the safety equipment didn't work. The nuclear part went off, generating an explosion about 50,000 times bigger than they were anticipating. Apparently, the explosion was so large that seismic equipment from all over the world could sense this explosion. You know, seismic equipment being the shit they use to detect earthquakes. Another
Yeah, I know.
scientist that was present described it
Yeah, I know.
as, and and I quote, the biggest damn Roman candle you ever saw. It was beautiful.
Jeebus.
Big blue glow in the sky. And because of this, the United States government comes to the realization, okay, maybe underground nuclear testing isn't that great of it. I'm just fucking with you guys. They redid the exact same experiment like a month later, August 27th, 1957. And they didn't really change a whole lot about the experiment. They took the device, they stuck it down the hole, they put thousands of pounds of concrete directly on top of it. And then the only thing they did change was instead of whatever lid they were using before that they could like put sensors through and shit, they went and tried to control the explosion by getting a 2,000-pound manhole cover, and then they welded it shut over the
manhole.
Top of the hole.
Sorry.
They then took the best high-speed camera they could find and aimed it at the manhole cover, because if the safety device failed again, whatever happens to the manhole cover was, and I quote, scientifically interesting, aka they're just doing Mythbusters shit with DOD money. So they detonate the bomb, the safety device fails, the nuclear portion goes off, and in hindsight, what happened is when you have a nuclear bomb go off with thousands of pounds of concrete directly on top of it, that concrete is instantly vaporized and turned into gas, and then that gas is pretty also instantly superheated, and superheated gas expands a lot, and this is an enclosed environment because they welded the manhole cover shut. If you're not picking up what I'm putting down, the scientists just inadvertently turned the planet into a fucking potato gun and launched this 2,000-pound manhole cover, presumably into outer space.
Really, though? I don't know. Oh, I guess they have it. Okay.
So all the scientists, being pros, start asking the question that everybody wants the answer to. How fast do you think that manhole cover was going? So they go to the high-speed camera. Okay, this camera is taking 1 frame per 1,000th of a second. Okay, it's a lot of fucking pictures. The manhole cover appears in 1 singular frame, and that is it.
Wow.
So because it was only captured by a single frame and not multiple frames, they can't calculate how far it was traveling over a period of time. So all they can calculate is the minimum speed that it would have to be going to only be captured by a single frame in the span of the camera shot. And the calculation they came up with was that manhole cover was moving at least 150,000 miles an hour. That is Mach 195. It is 195 times faster than the speed of sound. And the best part about all this is that this happened prior to Sputnik 1, meaning that if this manhole cover made it into outer space, it was the first man-made object to ever make it into outer space. It didn't make it into outer space. It would have burnt up in the atmosphere just like meteorites do. Oh shit, you're right. I completely forgot that every single meteorite that's ever come into the Earth's atmosphere is burnt up completely and never actually makes it to the ground. I'll be right back. I've got to go tell all the dinosaurs to stand up and quit being babies, because clearly they're exaggerating.
I just noticed he's tatted he's been tatted the hell up. You know, I didn't realize he had tattoos all down his legs, too. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
Guys, they're dead. This is completely different from a meteorite for multiple reasons. For one, a meteorite's never been made out of 2,000 pounds of refined steel.
You don't know
For
that.
two, a meteorite's moving at about 30,000 miles an hour when it collides with the Earth's atmosphere. This thing's moving at 150,000 miles an hour, and space is only 62 miles up, okay? This thing made it to outer space in a second. Even friction was like, what the fuck was that? Thirdly, the collision with the atmosphere is nothing like a meteorite, right? A meteorite is a rock traveling through the vacuum of outer space with no other forces acting upon it, and it collides with Earth's atmosphere, and then it gets slowed down and it gets burnt up, okay? The manhole cover isn't just moving at 150,000 miles an hour through the atmosphere. It is being propelled by a channeled nuclear explosion with all of the gases, aka the atmosphere behind it, also moving 150,000 miles an hour in the same direction.
Yes, science!
Okay, and just to be clear, I'm not saying that I'm correct. I'm simply saying I'm incredibly ill-equipped to answer this question accurately,
Me
and
too,
no
buddy.
offense, but there's
Me
about
too.
a 99.999% chance that you are too. So my verdict in regards to this manhole cover is going to be that it's still up in the air. It was a horrible dad joke. I'm sorry. Moving on. Now, fast forward, nuclear testing continued both underground, above ground, and in the atmosphere until 1963, when they signed a treaty with the Soviet Union and Great Britain that the only nuclear testing allowed was going to be underground. Now, fast forward again a couple of decades, and people's concerns over atmospheric nuclear bomb detonations turned out to be 100% legitimate because a ton of people ended up having elevated risks of cancer. Both the 18,000 soldiers that were present at Operation Plumb Bob had highly elevated likelihoods of developing leukemia and thyroid cancer, as well as thousands of civilians that were living in towns near the test sites. And I know what you're thinking. How come those people got cancer, but the guys that literally stood underneath a nuclear bomb as it was detonated didn't? Well, the way that nuclear radiation works is that it dissipates pretty quickly over like 2 to 3 days, and then it's completely gone. Which is why, like, all the old videos and protocols telling you what to do in case of a nuclear attack always told you, you know, duck and cover from the initial blast wave and then make your way inside and stay inside for like a week. After that, the radiation is decayed enough that it shouldn't hurt you. So the guys that were exposed to that bomb directly overhead were exposed to it for presumably 10, 15 minutes before they dipped and left, whereas a lot of these soldiers were exposed to repeated nuclear explosions over and over again, or these towns, the explosions would go up into the atmosphere.
Yeah, because I always think about the movie Genghis Khan that John Wayne did, and like everybody on set got cancer. So, yeah, and that was like near a nuclear test site in Nevada. So that, yeah, okay.
And the radiation would be caught in the wind, and it would just carpet these towns with radiation for days over and over and over again over the course of years, hundreds of nuclear detonations exposing these people to radiation. Now, fast forward like 3 decades to 1990, the United States government, with its infinite charity and outstanding moral compass, finally decides that they're going to pass the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, where they're going to pay these people that were wrongfully exposed to radiation due to their negligence. If you got cancer and you could prove that it was because of them, they would go ahead and they would give you $75,000 in one lump sum if you were a soldier on the ground, or if you were an innocent civilian just living your life in a town miles and miles away, they would give you $50,000. There's no other legal course that you could take. You can't sue them for more. You can't reject it. Just, here's what I'm going to give you. Wow. Fuck off.
Wow, that sounds like a really good deal. How about I give you the finger?
Okay, just so we're on the same page with this, the United States government takes your tax money, whether you want them to or not. You don't get an option. They're taking your money, okay? They then turned that money into radiation that they used to poison Americans with and give them cancer. Then, 30 years after the fact, they decided, you know what? We should make things right by giving the people that survived this long and can actually prove it was our fault, we'll give them like 50 grand. Bear in mind, that 50 grand is also money that was tax money that they took. So they took your money, used it to poison you, and then to pay you off, they gave you some of your money back.
I'm from the government, and I'm here to help.
Can you understand how absolutely crazy that is? Imagine if somebody walked up to somebody on the street and was like, hey, give me all the money in your wallet, or I'm going to throw you in a cage.
Well, it's kind of like, here, let me take, you got $100, give me 50, and then I'll give you 10 back.
For years,
Maybe
against your will. And you're like, okay, and you give them all the money in your wallet. They turn around, they go buy brass knuckles, come back, and then punch you in the face with the brass knuckles that they just bought with your money. And then they look down at you and they're like, oh, I really hurt you, my bad. And then they get into your pocket, find another $20 bill, pull that $20 bill out of your pocket, and then hand it back to you to pay you off for punching you in the face.
It's never too early to learn that the government is a greedy piglet that suckles on a taxpayer's teat until they have sore, chapped nipples.
I gotta end this video. I feel radicalized.
Offerman.
In conclusion, this has been the story of 6 crazy bastards that volunteered to have a nuclear bomb detonated directly above their head, and that time that America may have accidentally launched a manhole cover into outer space, potentially becoming the first man-made object ever, and that time that the US government poisoned tens of thousands of people with radiation, giving them cancer, and basically had no consequences for it whatsoever. Thanks for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang. Out.
Giving you cancer, giving you cancer.
Government giving people cancer with 0 consequences while trying to tell me I can't drink raw milk. I don't even want to drink raw milk.
I don't
I'm
either.
Just mad they think they
I just
can tell
wanted
me
to be
I
able to
can't.
have that option. Cancer, you got cancer. The government gives you lots of cancer. Here's 70K. You were okay. You're gonna be just fine. Okay. There you go. There's your bebop. There's your bebop session. Yeah, it was a fun one. I like that one. Yeah, there you go. More fat electrician. Gonna get a little stretch and a bend. Yeah, there you go. I guess if you're above a nuclear exploded device, you probably won't get cancer. That's interesting. All right. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe down below. Makes me feel real good inside and helps out the channel. And if you have any requests for any kind of videos, yeah, just put it in the comments. It doesn't have to be military related or anything like that, or anime related, whatever I do. Yeah, just put it down there and I'll get to it. So thank you very much, and bye.